Hi, everyone. It's Alex again. Welcome back to my channel. Kicked off the channel yesterday, and as you know, this channel is all about travel. So the first video was about how to get cheap deals on Skyscanner. And I mentioned that I have kids. So I have a wife and two kids. We love to travel as a family. So the topic for today is just in general, travel with children. Now, this is something based on what I've been told and what I've seen is intimidating to a lot of people. There's some people just can't imagine the idea of traveling with their kids. So they fall into one of two camps. Either they stay home all the time, which I think is really a shame, or they will get childcare and travel without their kids. And certainly no judgment to people who do that. I understand that, travel without your kids could be more relaxing. It's obviously better for certain types of trips, like going to an adult-only resort, for example. Obviously, you can't bring your kids, so I get that. I personally am not a big resort person. I'm not a huge beach person. I really enjoy sightseeing, experiencing new places, and I like a mix. So sometimes I like to go solo or with my wife, and sometimes we like to go as a family and just experience it together. And I can tell you that the experience is very different. But again, from my perspective, not any better or worse one way or another. Now, guys, just a caveat, I'm alone with my kids today, so I imagine I'll be interrupted several times while I'm recording this. But, we're talking about travel with kids, so I think life with kids is just like that, and you do get interrupted a lot, and that's part of travel with kids as well. So I wanted to talk about a few different considerations or lessons learned in regards to travel with kids, things to think about when you're planning a trip with your kids. I think the first one is to think about your destination. There are obviously some destinations that are more or less kid-friendly, and this is going to depend on your kids' ages, what they're interested in, your level of comfort with travel to certain destinations, and a whole host of other things. But it's worth giving some thought to if you're going, for example, backpacking in the Himalayas. That might be really hard with young kids. You have to think about things like kids being affected by altitude sickness, their ability to walk, your ability to push a stroller or carry them, things like jet lag, etc., that affect kids worse than adults. So all things to think about. And what I recommend is starting small and building up. So the first set of trips that we took with my son when he was very young were back and forth between Canada and the US. We lived in Canada at the time. My in-laws were in the US and we would visit regularly. Road trips, fairly simple. He had a familiar car seat, a familiar routine. The food was the same, no time difference, nothing like that to worry about, no air travel, etc. We then built it up and we took him on his first big trip to Austin, Texas. It was actually a business trip that my family came to. So I did my business first and then we went sightseeing. Again, pretty low impact, domestic travel. It was only 4 days, relatively close in time zone. It was hot. That was really the only consideration, but otherwise, a modern place where we could push a stroller, fairly safe, no major concerns like that. Next, we took him to Spain. This was obviously, again, a pretty easy destination, family-friendly anyway, but there were some extra challenges. So it was a longer flight. We had to deal with time difference. We ended up doing 4 cities. So I called it kind of like family backpacking, and certainly more challenging for him. Next, we took him to Mexico. Again, one step up. Mexico City was our big all-out challenging phase. And then we relaxed on the beach in Cancun after. And then finally, most recently, we took him to Colombia, which was probably the most challenging destination we've been to just because of the difficulty with the stroller. We also brought 2 kids on this trip. My daughter came as well. But we certainly built up to this. We were prepared for language barriers. I speak a bit of Spanish, the rest of the family does not. So I was doing a lot of translating. The heat, the challenge with getting around, and just, you know, the general challenges of travel, but with kids. So destination and build up, those are two things that I certainly recommend. I say challenge yourself, go on a short, reasonably simple trip, see how it goes, and then see where you want to go from there. And if you have a really miserable time at one point, it's no big deal. You simply recalibrate, you reconsider, and you move on. All right. So what are some other considerations for traveling with kids? And this is really regardless of where you go and what you do. The next big one is to always have snacks and beverages, especially if you're flying on a discount airline that does not serve regularly or does not serve affordably. You will find that kids complain a lot more than adults do about being hungry and being thirsty. And it can be very frustrating when they want something to eat or drink and you don't have access. So to the extent possible, you try to bring it. You know, you can't bring beverages through security. I recommend filling that water bottle. If you trust the tap water, buying water, as soon as you cross through that security area and into the terminal takeoff lounge area, don't try to go without, because the kids will drive you absolutely nuts. And of course, you don't want them to get sick and dehydrated. It can increase the likelihood of them being nauseous too while traveling. And you know, that's something we all want to avoid. Food, I recommend having their favorite snacks with you, something familiar. You know, they're going to experience a lot of culture shock, maybe more than you anticipated, not having comforts from home. I mean, I can tell you stories about my son screaming at me that he wanted goldfish crackers, and they just do not have goldfish crackers in certain parts of the world. So I really wish I had just packed a bag of goldfish crackers. And so those are some lessons learned right there. Stroller, have a good lightweight stroller. We travel with a single and we make my son walk, just because I know in certain countries, certain destinations, we would never be able to get through the narrow streets or sidewalks with a double. So we just don't bother. It's got to be something that I personally can fold up and carry with one hand, can drop at the boarding door and pick up at the boarding door, so that we can quickly move out of the jetway or get on a bus and walk into the terminal, depending on the destination. So we bought this Silver Cross stroller used from someone. It was really inexpensive. It's been great. It's been beaten up on several trips, but things still going strong. Doesn't have to have all the bells and whistles of the home stroller. It's under 10 pounds and great for travel. All right. And obviously, in terms of equipment, also making sure that you have enough diapers for the trip, where you know that you can reliably source diapers where you're going. I like to count, use an approximation of how many diapers they're going through in a day, at their particular age, and do the math. I never assume a place has diapers unless I know it does. Most places do, but you know, kids are picky about brands. You don't want to spend your vacation hunting around for a certain kind of diaper. Better to just bring it if you can. And forget the background noise. As I said, the kids are here and very excited. So if you have the right equipment, you can definitely make things a little bit easier on yourself, but you also have to think about what you're going to do while you're on vacation. And that means some compromises. So you're not going to be able to sightsee for 10 hours a day in Europe with children. I mean, you can try, but they're going to yell at you a lot and you're probably going to have a miserable time. So pace yourself. Figure out some target activities for each day of your vacation. Factor in some rest time. Excuse me, if you're going to a very warm destination, I recommend having a siesta or a break in the middle of the day. Kids don't do well under extreme heat. You don't want them to become dehydrated, get sick, or anything like that. So you might want to factor in, like we did in Colombia, say a break from 12 to 2 or 3, and then hit the ground running again after everyone's had a rest, a nap, etc. back to kid-friendly activities. It's not just about the pacing and the frequency. My daughter, she wants to be on camera. Say hi. Hi. She's an avid traveler already at such a young age. Kid-friendly activities. Kids like things, not every kid's the same, obviously, but things like kids' museums. There was a great one in Mexico City. They had a wonderful time. Zoos, parks. We have been known to go to a playground in every destination. It's a great way to make local friends, and certainly one of the highlights for me of our travels. And use those as incentives. So tell the kids, okay, we're going to go visit this church. You may not be super excited about it, but afterwards we're going to hit the playground. And there are some great pictures, which I will share, of my son playing soccer and hanging out with other local kids in Barcelona, Spain, right in front of the Sagrada Familia church, the famous church in Barcelona. So there are playgrounds everywhere. Anywhere that kids live, you'll find somewhere for them to play. This is also something that you may want to discuss with your kids depending on age before you go. So try to get them really excited about the trip, tell them what the destination has to offer, and see what they're interested in. My son loves animals, so if I tell him there's a zoo, he's going to ask me 100 times until we go to the zoo. So I like to get him pumped up and excited about it, and we hit the zoo as soon as possible, or the park. There was a great park in Cartagena, Colombia, where sloths and monkeys live. He had a blast, so did I. But that was something that he will probably remember as long as he can. And he made us go back every single day. So again, kids love certain types of activities, and that is something to keep in mind. So we talked a lot about challenges of traveling with your kids. Let's talk about some of the benefits. And I think they're quite obvious, but just to point it out, you're making amazing family memories. There's a lot of debate about whether you should travel with young kids if they're not going to remember. I think go for it. Memory is not just about long-term. You also want them to make good short-term memories, to have a fun and exciting childhood. And what better way than going on an adventure? So there's that. Other benefits of traveling with kids are that they become comfortable with the idea of travel. You get them out of their comfort zone at a young age. My son is really interested in geography now. We've sat together with a globe. He can identify several countries on the globe. We talk about places we've been. And I really want to foster that interest in him. That is something that we can continue to share as we grow up. And I plan to do the same with my daughter as she gets older as well. And finally, just in terms of their own development, it's a great way to enrich their language skills, to expose them to other languages and cultures. If you have picky eaters, it's a great way to get them to experiment, maybe step outside of their comfort zone. I'm not saying it's always successful, but certainly good to get that going at a young age. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's different. It's not travel alone or with an adult partner or friend, but there are a lot of benefits and rewards to traveling with your kids. All right. Well, thanks so much. It looks like we got through that. My daughter is about to close the computer, so I think this is the end of the video. But again, thanks so much for joining. Please hit the like button, the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, and you will be notified of future videos. I'm very excited to talk about more content related to travel, especially travel with kids. I plan to involve my wife in future videos, so more to come. Please do like and subscribe. Thanks so much. Take care.